years. Dan asked me to look through some of my stuff to see if I could find some old pictures. And I didn't have any old pictures, they were all already dissolved and gone away. But the old adage, I know I didn't go to NIACC first because it wasn't NIACC when I went here. I did find, while looking through those receipts, the receipt of my first tuition and book fee at NIACC, and this was my first introduction to the NIACC family. That tuition and book fee for one semester was $97.40. Now, after I paid the fee, a stately gentleman walked from around behind the counter, shook my hand, and said, "You're going to like it here." That was my introduction to the NIACC family. His name's on the two-story building in the center campus. His name's Clifford Bean. I learned a lot from him. I went into my first comm skills class here. I hated, believe it or not, giving a speech. And rather than give the speech, I would cut Mrs. Griffin's class. That was fine up to a point, till she caught up with me in the lounge and said, "Young man, either you will give the next speech or you're going to fail my class." I said, "Well, Mrs. Griffin, I'll just take it again next year." "No, you don't understand. If you fail, I fail, and I'm not a failure. I did give the speech and I did get through the class." After that, of course, I did go on to finish, got my degree, and went out and taught in the public school system for a while. And during that time, I met a lot of outstanding and big-name coaches. But two of the people that are most dedicated to football that I've ever known, one of them is the reception is going to get here, Richard Ramsey. I've never known anybody that was as dedicated to the game as what he was. The other is a gentleman that I coached with for a number of years, played on the Dirty 30, and he's here with us today, Henry Vogelman, played with the Dirty 30 down at Iowa State. Great friend, great coach. Well, I taught for a number of years, was walking down the golf course at Rockford one day, and I heard a voice yell at me, "Hey, what are you going to do next fall?" Well, I decided I was going to go back to grad school. It was Art Lundblad. Art was playing golf, and he said, "Why don't you come up to NIACC and help me coach some football if you can get your classes arranged?" Hadn't thought about it, but I said, "Okay, I'll try that," and we did. And I'll come back to Art a little bit later, but that was my introduction as to how I got to NIACC. Shortly after being up here for a while, he worked with Jerry Torgerson and was able to put me on the road recruiting athletes and ball players. Tor, you probably never know how much you did for me. On one of those trips, I was down in Ankeny talking to Coach Pizzetti down there. And after his going through the spiel of the kid we were interested in, he always sent you up to the guidance counselor to see how things were going, how the kid could do in school. So I went up to the guidance counselor, and this lady was sitting there, and we were talking about the young man. And she said, "My son would like to play some basketball." And I said, "Well, that's fine. We're sort of interested in good kids." And she said, "Well, he didn't play in high school very much." And I said, "Well, we've got a pretty established coach, and if he didn't play in high school very much, I don't think Herb would be interested in him." She said, "Well, he's 7 foot tall." I said, "What?" I came back and told Herb there was a 7 foot tall kid in Ankeny, Iowa that wanted to come up to NIACC. He said, "Is there a 7 foot tall kid in the state of Iowa can walk and chew gum? I'd know about it." Well, he didn't. But he did call Bull Bear, and that's how Bull Bear ended up here at NIACC. Jerry Torgerson then, for some strange reason, said to me one day, "Why don't you take over the student senate?" Well, that was an experience in itself, because I had worked with student senates in the high school level, but on the college level, I wasn't really sure what to do. So I said to Jerry, what do you want me to do with these kids? He says, you find the 7 or 8 best people you can, tell them what you want to do, and get out of their way. Well, that's what we did. And for 8 years in a row, we were rated as one of the best junior colleges in programming in the state of Iowa, and twice we were awarded nationally awards for what we did with this programs here. About that time, of course, I was still working with Jerry, coaching football, and I can't tell you how much that Jerry Dunbar has meant to me. On the 2 most difficult days of my life, it was Jerry, excuse me, it was Jerry who was there, standing beside me when Art died. It was Jerry who was there when I needed him. I can't tell you how much Jerry's meant. But Art Lundblad was the person who brought me here. Art was the man who said to me one time, you know, you're better off if you're known for what you have done for others than what you've done. And that's really sort of what I've tried to do while I've been here at NIACC. I can't begin to say how humble I am for what this means to me and what you mean to me. I'd like to conclude this by simply saying, quoting Winston Churchill, when he said, "We are here today because we were carried here on the shoulders of great ones." Thank you very much.